markets are still going to be China and India, and we're looking to grow in these markets. If you just look at the consumption stats that were mentioned before, India and China are still under-indexing compared to the Western markets, and we are seeing that growth increase. If you look at the Chinese market, just from a daily nut perspective, in the last 5 years, it's grown from a $1 billion market to a $14.8 billion market, and it continues to increase. Just like India, we're seeing, middle classes increasing and consumption for nuts, and especially almonds, increasing as well, just as the economics for almonds is coming affordable to the population. So we're seeing really good growth in the India market as well, with, like I was mentioning before, the emerging markets in HoReCa, food service, dairy, ice cream, bakery. It's just amazing when you go to the hotels. When I was here, not even 5 years ago, you saw some baking items, but now in every hotel you will see croissants with almonds on top, which is really, really exciting to see. Some of the logistics issues, so from a Select Harvest perspective and from the position reports, we do focus on easy access markets. Easy access markets include India, China, and Southeast Asia. They're very easy for us to access. Some of the issues from a logistics perspective is the transit times to Europe or the Middle East, which are extending out to 60, 70, even 90 days, depending on the transshipment ports. So, for us, again, China and India are key markets, and they're definitely going to be growing for us as well.
Thank you very much, Ikram. That was very insightful. Obviously, just turning finally to our last, which we will just touch on given the time. As I say, the subject of almonds is one about which we all share an immense passion, and I'm sure can talk to anyone in the room for many an hour. However, with an effort to stay as much as possible on time, just putting the question quickly to you, Craig. Obviously, I think we would all agree India is absolutely a key growth market for most commodities, but absolutely for almonds. And I think the potential is obviously clearly there for all to see. However, given what we've just heard from yourself and Ikram, will supply be sufficient?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So India is obviously the #1 export market for California almonds, and it will continue to be for a number of years. And if you've seen any of the data or anything put out by the Almond Board of California, we actually see a lot of growth potential still for India. We see a lot of growth. Now, you might see some numbers that talk about doubling the shipments into India, and that's aspirational. If we have the almonds, we firmly believe that we could double the shipments going into India. But there's a lot of things that will be involved with doing that, right? So there's a lot of excitement. India in the past has been a very price-sensitive market. How does that shape out in the future, and how does that go forward with e-commerce and quick market, and how is that going to affect what shipments could be? California as well, everybody here is really focused on India, and we're in India, but I'm trying to take more of a big picture and a global as well, because California produces 80% of the world's almonds. So we have a lot of markets that we're shipping almonds to, and if you ask a California handler or a grower who in the past has focused on some other markets, like maybe the Middle East or maybe Japan, getting very good premiums in those marketplaces. So are those handlers and those growers going to be willing to shift some of that tonnage over to India to have India grow as much as I think the potential is there? And that's a question we don't know the answer to, right? It's going to all come down to economics. But, when you walk down the grocery aisle in the United States 15 years ago, you found almonds in 2 places. You walk down the grocery store in the United States and you find almonds in every single aisle that there is now. Every product out of every category has almonds in it somehow, some way. 20 years ago when I started with Campus, 21 years ago with Campus Brothers Farms, we shipped 2 products to Japan. Blanched slivered to go with dried fish, and non-pearl extra, #1, 25, 27. We ship 14 different items to Japan today. And the grocery aisles in Japan are the same way they are in the United States now. Every aisle you go down, you will find products with almonds in it. I think India has that potential. And as you look at it from not only a snacking and a whole almond standpoint, how does India evolve into ingredient? and what happens with ingredient in this market, because there's a vast amount of growth potential there. And when you look at cost, as an ingredient, it's not the cost doesn't hit you quite as much, right? Because you're not paying for that whole almond, you're paying for part of it to go into that product, to be able to talk about that almonds being part of the ingredient. So the Almond Board is very bullish on India. I think every grower in California feels like India is a great market for us. But we also have to consider we've got a supply that's not growing like we thought it was going to 5 years ago. It is really stagnated, and we'll see how long that stays. Australia just heard the same thing about that as well. So, you know, something will give, and there's going to be some give and take, whether it's price, whether it's shipments. We'll have to see what happens.
Thank you very much, Craig. So some final food for thought then. Raju, turning lastly to you, can India's market growth be accelerated by promoting lesser known varieties or value added, for example, almond flour or butter?
Well, India is a big market. There are no real statistics as of date for almond flour and almond butter. I would say this value-add product right now would be somewhere in the range of 250 to 500 tons per annum right now. We can see a 50, 100% growth over the next couple of years, but that's just a tip of the iceberg. They are presently, right now, mainly in tier 1 cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, etc. Little bit in the tier 2. The almond boards of Australia, California, along with our importers and our processors, need to go to the tier 3, tier 4 cities to increase the awareness of such products. Once similar product used to be almond milk. And almond milk was a big thing that the US market thought that was coming to India. But we were already in almond milk for the last 200, 300 or maybe 500 years. Our mothers used to make almond milk at home. So it is a awareness that needs to be created. And it's a long-term strategy, I think, over the next 10 years, where you can see a big growth potential. But the big question right now, according to Craig, is that do we have enough almonds to support India with a 4 to 5% increase every year? So you probably now need to get on to more production right now.
So there's certainly a lot for the panelists and the audience to consider, and certainly for those that, you know, have obviously been involved in the industry growing significantly over the past 20 years, are aware of the challenges, but equally the opportunities. And I think we have a very exciting time ahead of us in what is essentially an exceptionally exciting and dynamic market such as India. So we only have a few minutes left, but I think it's only fair that if there are any questions there, we turn to you. We've had our say, so please, if there are any questions in the audience, please do raise your hand, and the roving mic will come to you. To the left of the stage, please. To the left of the stage, please. If you could please raise your hand and stand up so that the mic can see you. Thank you. So if I could please ask you to introduce yourself and the company and then ask your question for the panelists.
Yeah, good morning everyone. My name is Prasoon. I'm from Reliance Retail and representing the retail community in India. My question is to the gentleman, the grower from US. As a retailer, when we look at mass consumption nuts like almonds, we want to grow the category both ways. One, lowering the price point. So India in the last few years discovered that independence grade found a lot of takers and suddenly become more popular because that's the opening price point that came up. And I think Australian Caramel is also in that space now. But when we look at premiumizing the existing users in almonds, there's not much other than the non-pareil. The premiumization today we look at is the Iranian Mamra. You know, we know there is a Sonora which is a premium grade or sells at a premium. So are the US growers working on giving some premium varieties or trying to push some premium grades in India so that we tap this latent demand for more premium grades of almonds in India?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, California is, coming out with different varieties on a regular basis. Getting into variety, though, through trials and then into full production takes quite a few years to know what you're going to have to work with. There are some different varieties to look at. I think, how you view premium, I think, is going to be is a different scenario for different customers, right? So, again, I'll take Japan as an example. It was only nonpareil. That's all that was sold into nonpareil for centuries, basically. You've got now nonpareil. They're starting to use independents. They're using Carmel type. They're using Butte Padre and Fritz now in certain applications. So a Fritz has a lot more flavor than maybe a nonpareil does, right, from California. So if you look at it from a flavor profile, Fritz, even though it is a lower cost almond at this point in time, could be a premium almond because of the flavor profile that it has. We're looking at other varieties that are coming out from the nurseries. Again, it takes a long time to really get a new variety that we can trust that's going to be able to have the production that we need, and then we're going to be able to grow it in California the way that we need to make it profitable for us. Independence is a good example. It had spectacular growth out of the blocks, and now you've seen that really taper off on Independence. It's not being planted as much anymore because it's not really providing what we all thought it would as a grower. It didn't give us it came out of the blocks fast, but it kind of fades as it gets older. It's not a one shake like it was promised to be. It takes a little bit more to get it off the tree. So things that you got to work with before you can get into a variety that may be a higher premium variety. There's some that are coming that we'll see if it turns into that. There's some that'll look at Sonora. It's an old variety, but it will carry a premium certain times in certain crop years. So I think for India, looking at that from that perspective, to think about not only just what the price of that almond is from California, but what characteristic does it have that you could make it into a premium. And I think Fritz is one of those that fits that very, very well because of the flavor profile.
Thank you very much to you both. Do we have any other questions? I think we have time perhaps for one more. Any other questions from the audience? No, fabulous. Yes, of course. Please do, Craig.
So just real quick to throw in here at the end, again, because I look at this thing from a global perspective, and if you look at the position report, you'll see China this month down 44% for California almonds, and part of that's because of our friends in Australia and that zero duty, which is a nice thing. But something, if you look at the position report and you really analyze it, you'll see that Taiwan is up 54%. Indonesia is up 16%. Malaysia is up 51%. Singapore is up 105%. Vietnam's up 45%. A lot of those almonds are going into those countries, getting reprocessed, made into consumer goods, and then going to China. And the Chinese government's absolutely fine with that happening. It's not a gray channel. It's legitimate trade. And so I think as even India, as you look at growth and how that happens in the future, because who knows what's going to happen with trade and with barriers and tariffs that may be put into place. There's different ways to get things done, and I think the Chinese are a great example to look at how they're able to still get almonds in. Look at Turkey. How much is Turkey up? I would say 25 to 30% of the almonds going to Turkey from California end up in Russia. We haven't been able to ship to Russia in decades. So the world has a way of moving around to get almonds when they need them.
Thank you, Craig. And I think, that's absolutely very true. I think people within our industry tend to be very dynamic and very nimble when there are changing factors, and particularly external ones, as we know the geopolitical factors today and look like they're with us to continue. So I'm sure that the markets will continue to evolve as a result. So I would like to thank you all very much, and particularly the panelists today. Thank you all very much for your contributions, and the audience for listening today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a monumental round of applause for our eminent panel. And as our panel is amongst us, we'd just like to have an opportunity of calling upon Mr. Ashok Krishnan, a pivotal figure, of course, from INC. Sir, just yesterday we heard from you, but this time we request you for a token of appreciation to be given to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, a warmer round of applause for Mr. Ashok Krishnan. And ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere as we have a surprise element for you just before the lunch. So stay back as we are now going to be going ahead first for the felicitation. So with that being said, let's bring in the token of appreciation on the stage, starting with Mr. Krishnan and Ellie in one frame. Ellie, if you could step forward in the center along with Mr. Krishnan. Mr. Krishnan, we request you to open the wooden plaque while giving it to Ellie. A warmer round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, Ellie Osman. We'd also like to now request Pradeep Kumar Rajput to please step forward and Mr. Krishnan to help us with the felicitation of Pradeep Kumar Rajput. A warmer round of applause as we acknowledge the presence of Pradeep Kumar Rajput. We'd now like to request Craig Dewar to please step forward. We'd request Ashok Krishnan and Craig to be in one frame. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed their conversation and their wisdom, let's give them a bigger round of applause. We'd now like to encourage Ikram Omer to please step forward, and let's congratulate and thank him for all his efforts in the panel through a fabulous round of applause. Ikram and Mr. Krishnan in one frame. And of course, let's now get Raju Bhatia and Mr. Ashok Krishnan in one frame. Let's give him a warmer round of applause as we thank him for all his efforts. So, ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. We've got a surprise element awaiting you. And with that, may we request the entire panel to please come together along with Mr. Krishnan for a group photograph. If you've enjoyed this conversation, let's give them a bigger round of applause all about almonds. And we've learned so much on the day 2 of MEVA India 2025. So with that being said, as our panelists are on stage, may I now take an opportunity of inviting the CEO of NDFCI, ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Nitin Sehgal. Let's give him a warmer round of applause as we invite him for a special segment. And let's hear what Colonel Nitin has to say.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are having quite a productive and a useful time utilization at the MEVA 25. This edition of MEVA 25, we've introduced a specialized app for our signature event, MEVA. So we have the MEVA app running. We have a couple of, a lot of downloads, both on the Android as well as the Apple version. So we just thought we'll take a quick 3 to 4 minutes explaining and running through the app so that we can ensure a better utilization and more worthy and a more useful way of navigating through it. So by the time I finish, I will just show you a QR code on the screen through which you can download the MEVA app onto your respective mobiles. Once you download the app, you will get a login page. You have to use the same login through which you have registered as a delegate or a sponsor or a member. The moment you put that email ID, you will get an OTP in your mail through which you can log in onto the app. Can we have the interface of the app, please? Yashi? He's just putting it on the screen. I'm just waiting for him to put it on the screen. So once you have logged in, you will get an interface which has 10 tabs on the app. The first is the show info. So through the show info, you can get to know everything about the show, the dates, the venue, the location and everything. Next, we have the exhibitors tab, in which you can see at a glance all the exhibitors who are participating in the MEVA 25. You can scroll and navigate through the exhibitors, searching from them alphabetically as per their name, as well as their company names. This is how the interface would look. So this is the tab as regards the exhibitor tab is concerned. We can apply filter on the exhibitor based on the product category that the person is using. You can filter the exhibitors. Their names as well as their booth numbers are given along with it. The next tab is the speakers tab. You can scroll through all the speakers and their profiles. Okay, the next is the agenda tab, in which you can see the day's program. So each date, what program, at what time, what panel discussion, including what session at the Flavors of the World, our culinary section, what program is running there, that can also be seen through this agenda tab. The next tab is our felicitating our sponsors and partners. So we can see all the sponsors of our event. The next tab is the meeting scheduler, the most important tab which you may require as regards the networking, the opportunity which is being provided at the event. You can scroll through and filter as per the what profile are they working in. Are they importer, exporter, distributor, processor, whatever, and the product which they are dealing in. So you can filter, you can send them an invite for date and time you would like to meet them. Once you do that, they will get a notification on their mobile, and once they accept, your meeting is coordinated with him, and you can see it in your My Schedule tab. So next tab is My Schedule, in which the meetings you fix can be seen there. The next is the floor plan. This is an interactive floor plan through which you can navigate the various booth names and the where are they located exactly. And lastly, we also have a feedback tab which will go live tomorrow, and we would request all of you to kindly submit your feedbacks, put in your feedbacks to make this event even more better, this experience even better the next time around. Thank you so much for the patient listening. Thank you so much, sir.
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we'd now encourage you to continue with the networking, head towards the expo area, have a great lunch. On the other side, at 2:30, we're going to be having the cashew panel here in Lotus Ballroom 1. Then we're going to be having at 3:40, raisins, figs and apricot roundtable. And at 4:40 to 5:30, the dates roundtable. So a lot is stored for you on the day 2 of MEVA India 2025.